Cool.
Okay, so we're going to transition now, hopefully, if I'm right, Casey, to tire pressure monitoring.
Yep.
Okay, and this has really become a pretty significant issue in the RV industry because obviously you don't want to have low pressure in your tires, and you don't want to do that, especially coming out of the Firestone Ford debacle, whose fault it was. You want to maintain constant PSI in your tires for a couple of different reasons. One, it keeps them cooler, and two, it extends the life of your tires if they're properly inflated. And so what we're going to talk about now are metal valve stem extensions. And we can add metal valve stem extensions to virtually any RV. And what we're talking about here is primarily, although we can add them to all 6 wheels, is primarily that inner dual rear wheel. This particular coach is an 18,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating chassis. So it actually comes standard with factory installed metal valve stem extensions. And if you look right down here, Josh, you can see the metal braid with the clamp. This valve stem extension is actually for the inner dual. The outer is actually located right up top there. So you've got both, this being the outer wheel, this being the inner wheel. If you're ever looking at doing valve stem extensions, just absolutely do not ever install a rubber version. You want to make sure that it's metal. This is a metal braid that comes from the factory. If you have a Sprinter-based product, we do a lot of these in our dealership. This is a valve stem extension that literally goes from the inner to the outer wheel. This particular version on the Class A gas coach utilizes a metal braid with a hanger, which works fine. You can see I've pre-installed the tire pressure monitoring sensor. This actually sends a sensor to the accessory that I'm going to show you here in a moment. But if you have this factory installed, obviously there's no need for this type of a metal valve stem extension. But we do a lot of these on our Sprinter products, and on the Ford coaches that are in excess of 18,000 pounds, Winnebago is now starting to offer this as a factory installed accessory that you'll see on virtually anything ordered now that it's available. But it's a metal valve stem extension that goes through the steel inner wheel to the aluminum outer wheel, and actually uses a bushing that I'll show you here in a second. So really the benefit to these that are metal is they're not going to leak. When we install this type, this is actually a Borg stem. So if you spend a lot of time on the internet forums, this is a Borg metal valve stem. We actually break the bead on the tire and replace the rubber valve with a metal valve. So we break the bead down, we replace the valve with metal, run it through the outer tire, and include a rubber bushing. And Josh, pardon my reach. So you'll notice on this it's actually hung on a hanger right here with the metal braid. So if you picture a Sprinter wheel, you'll have a slightly smaller wheel, and when this extension comes through, we actually utilize a rubber bushing inside that hole to prevent that metal valve stem from flapping around in transit. So these are kind of the premier metal valve stem extensions. Again, these are the Borg stems that are available for Class C's, Sprinters, ProMasters. Actually, a ProMaster wouldn't need it because it doesn't have dual rear wheels. But a really good accessory. We do a lot of these on Sprinter products. So I'll step over here, Josh. So this is the kit that comes with the metal valve stem extensions. Pretty affordable depending upon which style you need, because there are different styles as to whether or not you have a chrome wheel or a steel wheel on the outside. These run anywhere from about $72 to $120 depending on which model you need. So again, that's a valve stem extension. The primary reason is to check the tire pressure in your inner rear duals. So we're all kind of wired in a society now where if you don't have to check it, you don't want to, because it's one more thing to do. This little guy right here is a tire pressure monitoring system. Okay, so much like you might have in your light duty passenger car or passenger truck, you'll actually have a built-in tire pressure monitoring system right directly into the cluster of your car, trucks, sedan, SUV. You'll actually have low pressure lights that come on, or you may be actually able to dial in and see what your tire pressure is on any of your 4 wheels. In the RV industry, we don't offer a tire pressure monitoring system from the factory, with the exception of the ProMaster products, which actually offer it from the ProMaster manufacturer itself through Dodge Ram. So what this accessory is, and we've been utilizing these for years, and there's a couple of different versions out there, whether it's Pressure Pro or this happens to be the tire minder system. This is about a $446 accessory. It acts much like another smart device that plugs into the 12-volt system right up front inside your cluster. It includes 6 wireless sensors that screw onto your valve stem extension and send the signal real time to the LCD panel that can be mounted up front. The other advantage to it is that you can set parameters so that if the tire pressure drops or increases by a certain amount of PSI, you'll get an alert. And so again, really the goal there is to try to maintain constant PSI. And if you want to spend the $400 for a tire pressure monitoring system, you'll always know what your rear inner duals are. And so then it's kind of a moot point as to whether or not you're actually ever going to check it, because you're only going to check it when you need to. So again, that takes the place of what would be a tire pressure monitoring system that might be in your light duty passenger car, truck, sedan, SUV. The other nice thing about this system is it's expandable to your dinghy vehicle, to your towed vehicle. So if you want to maintain, and then you can take it from vehicle to vehicle. So if you're traveling down the road with your car in tow, you can get the tire pressure on your dinghy towed vehicle. And once you reach your destination and you're jumping around, you know, from site to site in your crossover, your SUV, your car, you can actually take that with you and constantly get your tire pressure monitoring on your towed vehicle.
A question back to the valve stem extension.
Sure.
Stating that with the stem in the outer wheel being facing in the opposite direction, if they need a flexible extender or a different type of...
So on the outer wheel?
Right.
So the outer wheel, if you want to look real closely here, Josh, is right here, and it's actually facing the inner wheel. Okay, so this is the valve stem right inside here for the outer wheel, and it's facing that way. And you probably won't be able to see it with the flash, but it's basically sitting like this. And so what you're going to need is a double-sided chuck or a double-sided tire pressure gauge to add air to that wheel. Basically, it looks like a normal pressure gauge, but not only does it have the inlet up top, it has it behind, so you can just pull it behind. Some of our metal valve stem extensions that we do on the Sprinters lines, we actually have one that appears to be bent, but it's actually factory manufactured that way and will bend around so you can just go straight on. But again, that's to add tire pressure if you need to, or to remove it obviously. But really the best way to go is with a tire pressure monitoring system so that you get real-time readouts. The other accessory that we offer here in our dealership, which was a pretty significant investment, although it's not a moneymaker for us by any means, it's just something that we truly, truly believe in. And you got to remember, we're in an ag economy, and so it's offered at a lot of our cooperatives because farm equipment utilizes it, and that's nitrogen in your tires. It's a very inexpensive accessory. We do tow vehicles for $40. We actually do RVs for $94. And we actually remove the oxygenated air, the air that we breathe, out of your tires. So it removes any of that moisture content and allows you to have anywhere from 97 to 100% pure nitrogen in your tires. And so the logic goes like this: if you've ever been in an aircraft, the air that's inside that landing gear is pure nitrogen. If you've ever seen a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race, all of those wheels that go onto those vehicles are filled with nitrogen. And the reason for it is it provides two benefits. Nitrogen doesn't compress and expand like oxygenated air, so it doesn't vary your pounds per square inch or your PSI. So it maintains constant tire pressure, which will provide you better fuel economy. It will provide you better fuel economy. It'll also minimize the wear and tear on your tires, so it'll increase the life of your tires. Lastly, it'll actually keep your tires cool because it doesn't heat up like oxygenated air. Kind of the testament to it is if you ever drive around and you see ag equipment, you probably wonder, how do they make it out of wintertime when the temperature drops and those wheels are actually right down on the rims? They have nitrogen in the tires. We utilize it in all of our courtesy vehicles. It's not a moneymaker for us by any means. It's just something that we truly, truly believe in. I have a couple of ATVs that I store down in my shed. It gets very cold in Iowa during the wintertime. Anytime I go out there, I haven't added tire pressure to those ATVs in years. So it maintains that constant PSI. It'll be a safer product for you. It'll increase the life of your tires, and it'll provide better fuel economy.
A couple more questions. Someone wondering what happens if they get a flat and have nitro in their tires?
Yep, really good question. We get that question a lot. And we utilize a company called Nitrofill, and Nitrofill was a merger of Nitrofill and Purigen. It's the manufacturer that supports Jeff Gordon Racing. It's the premier nitrogen vendor in North America, and when you actually have us purge your tires with that manufacturer, you'll get a little card, and you can take that card to any of the Nitrofill dealers throughout the United States, and they can purge that for you at no charge. However, if you're in a pinch where somebody is not a Nitrofill dealer and you do need to add some tire pressure, you can absolutely add oxygenated air to a tire that's filled with nitrogen. All that's going to do is it's going to dilute that nitrogen content. So instead of being at 97 to 100, you may drop down to 80 to 90. If you ever bring it back into our dealership for service, we'll purge the tires for you, no charge at any point in time. It's just something we truly believe in.
Following up to that, someone wondering how they would find those dealers, if there's a website that tells them.
You bet. There's a website that you can go to right at, if you just search for Nitrofill, you can type in the dealer locator.
And then a follow-up question on the monitoring system.
Yep. Wondering
if the outer wheel has to be removed in order to install that.
Not for the actual tire pressure monitoring system. So if you're going to install a tire minder and you have access to that stem, all you have to do is just replace the sensors. These sensors take the place of your valve caps. If you're going to install a tire valve stem extension, there are some very inexpensive kits that you can thread through. My only problem with them is I've seen them, they're rubber, they leak, potentially can leak if they're not installed correctly. They also flop around inside that outer wheel in transit. So the best way to do it, if you want to maintain that, which can be a pretty significant safety issue, is to utilize a metal valve stem extension. It's clearly the one that Ford Motor Company Freightliner is utilizing, so it's obviously a reason why they use metal stems instead of rubber.